welcome to 20 Somethings TV. I'm Rachel. I'm here with Dan, Quigs, and Nate. It seems like a pattern that we've been starting off our shows talking about food, and this week we are talking about pizza. The famous pizza chain Pizza Hut has officially filed for bankruptcy, and Quigs, I'll start with you. Do you think we'll really lose the infamous Pizza Hut?
I can see us losing Pizza Hut, yeah, definitely for good. Honestly, I haven't heard anybody, like I've never spoken to somebody and heard them be like, yeah, I'm just going to Pizza Hut. Like I don't know when the last time I was in a Pizza Hut is. I don't know when the last time anybody I know was in one. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't come back.
I don't recall the last time I had Pizza Hut, honestly. Doesn't seem like there's any that are around Rhode Island. Um, yeah, and you don't really hear about it being good or not. Like it seems like it's middle of the road.
Yeah, no, honestly, I feel like Pizza Hut might be like kind of, on the way out, you see like Domino's and when at first when this was mentioned, I was thinking Papa Gino's because that's a place that I used to go when I was a kid, but I can't even remember a distinct time in my lifetime that I've been to a Pizza Hut. So I do feel like they could be on their way out with that and that they might be kind of a dying breed.
I couldn't tell you the closest Pizza Hut to URI or even my hometown that I lived in for 20 years. Like, I have no idea where any Pizza Hut is. But let's move on. So, um, we're starting off pretty light and including one of the most famous YouTubers slash comedians, David Dobrik. He has almost 19 million subscribers and, probably one of the most famous miners slash influencers at the moment. But it's normal for him to do these regular Tesla giveaways that a lot of people have probably seen on their feeds for people trying to win them. But his most recent one seemed to be his most successful, where he gave away 5 Teslas to whoever registered to vote for the upcoming election. And he ended up getting an estimated 120,000 people who registered to vote, all because of this giveaway. And it was one of the most successful registration drives that has been seen for the US. But some people are complaining that although he didn't share his opinion, they're complaining that some of their favorite, people they watch and celebrities are getting too much into politics when they don't really need to be. I know David Dobrik is doing this. He can't really get into politics because he's technically not a US citizen because he moved here from Slovakia. So he can't vote anyway. But a lot of people are saying he just shouldn't get involved in the US, even though he's lived here the majority of his life. So, Nate, I'll start with you. Do you think celebrities are getting too much into politics recently?
I think that, celebrities have their way of putting their name out there and putting what they believe in out there. And they have people who are going to listen to them no matter what. And one person who did that was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, one of the biggest actors in the world. And he said that he is supporting the Democratic Party and he's never really supported any party publicly before. But this election, he said that he wanted to do that. And, they're going to have people that are going to listen to them. They're going to have people probably that risking um, their figure in the public by doing it, but they have the choice, and I think that they should have the choice to do that.
You
I don't
know,
think that.
oh,
Was that
go
quick?
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I don't think there's anything wrong with getting people to register to vote and using your platform to do that. But I definitely think with like younger audiences just getting to their voting age and everything, they are still, even we are still very like highly influenced people by like the media that consumes us and the stuff that we enjoy watching. So I feel like making like incentives for people to vote, that's not bad, but making incentives for people to vote for a certain person with that sort of platform could be potentially hazardous.
This is
I agree.
it's something I've been thinking about like all week because I watch a YouTube channel that's almost notoriously apolitical, but they just recently came out to their like 16 million followers with a voter registration website that influential they are, and maybe that they have a responsibility with that influence to encourage people not to vote for a particular party, but to use their right to vote. And I think that's definitely a good thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with celebrities just encouraging people to take active participation in their government.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think it's good, like for people who are so powerful and like, even if it's their real opinion, I think it's good that they just educate people on whatever the topic is, that it is not really, maybe it shows their opinions or not. I think like if some people sit back and do nothing on like maybe situations that are obviously wrong, then it, like I know I've seen people get like annoyed at certain influencers or like celebrities who are just completely silent about like huge issues. For example, like the Black Lives Matter movement, I think a lot of people were getting mad at the Kardashian family because a lot of people say they kind of appropriate with their culture, but yet they're being completely silent on the whole movement going on. So I think it's difficult on like when they should say something, when they shouldn't. But if it is just like education or just straight up getting people to vote, I think it's pretty good. And you know, social media is so like prominent these days. Like everyone's on it for the most part, especially with politics and like just societal issues. And the biggest one is Facebook, which I think is one of the most political like social media apps. I always see, you know, my old uncles on there going off about something. So speaking of Facebook, they're soon going to be banning the political ads. So Quigs, could you tell us a little about that?
Sure. Basically, there's 2 steps, it seems, to this plan that they put out, which is also, it's pretty out of the normal for Facebook to be entering this conversation at all, because Mark Zuckerberg in the past has stated that he is not into the idea of banning political ads because he thinks that it favors a particular party. He thinks it favors the incumbent. But it seems that before the election, starting, I think it's already been put into place, any votes for like poll watchers or anything that insinuates that our vote doesn't matter, Facebook is going to be pulling, in addition to anything involving QAnon. And then after the election, it seems they're going to ban all political ads because of this weird in between we're going to have where we'll have voted, but we don't know who the president is. It seems like they want to avoid any false, any false, any false victory. Sorry, could not come up with that word. But yeah, they don't want people being like, Biden won or Trump won, and like they fully didn't, and then people like are freaking out about that.
Mm-hmm. So Dan and Nate, do you guys support the decision to ban political ads from Facebook?
I think in this day and age, it seems like it is the right decision to ban them just because of the toxicity that a lot of people have towards each other. If you have a certain belief, and things can get really toxic on the internet. So it does seem like now is a good time that you would ban the ads.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with Nate. I think that in some elections it might not have mattered as much, and I mean, I think the aspect of like all political candidates having this social media now certainly changes it. But I mean, I think that it's a very divisive issue, and I think that Facebook was definitely right to lead the charge because they are one of the social media pioneers, and also it's just they're one of the biggest they were one of the biggest social media apps with the middle-aged generation that has been voting for a decent amount of time and kind of is more involved in the political system, say, than like 18, 19-year-olds who might be using Instagram or Twitter. So I think that Facebook was definitely right to set an example and just kind of stop any political misinformation from spreading and try to get a control over that.
And usually people should have the freedom of speech, but it seems like now people are going to be attacking from either side depending on what you believe in.
I think Zuckerberg actually was quoted saying this isn't business as usual, which I think think is like informing Facebook's choice to make this move, which is not something it seems like they'd normally do.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely interesting, and the whole freedom of speech thing, it is difficult because a lot of people abuse that to just say, to say their speech, but it may be completely wrong. So it just has a just domino effect of impacting people of just having misinformation. On to more politics, but on the international side of things, not in the US, where it seems like so much is going on, but over in the Hong Kong, a group of activists have been arrested. So Dan, could you tell us a little about that and what you think about it?
Yeah, so basically, this all stems back to the protests in Hong Kong last year. This was these protests were for Hong Kong gaining its sovereignty from China and basically becoming its own self-governing state. I mean, it's still a semi-sovereign state. China does allow it some freedoms that it wouldn't allow other parts of the country, and making laws and everything. But basically, these activists were in Hong Kong and they tried to flee to Taiwan. They were wanted in China for like political crimes, and basically Hong Kong police assisted in the capturing of them by using a plane to monitor their movement across the ocean, and then eventually Chinese Coast Guard picked them up, arrested them, and they were brought to China to be tried for these political crimes. And so basically, I mean, it's kind of just a controversial subject whether Hong Kong should be helping China with this at all, considering they were people pushing for their sovereignty. They were protesting for it. And I mean, it was definitely controversial that they were handed back over to Beijing to be tried, just because Beijing does, they have a higher conviction rate and they try political crimes a lot harder than Hong Kong ever would. And I mean, with China still having this grip over Hong Kong, it's kind of dimming some hopes of ever fully sovereign state for Hong Kong.
Quigs and Nate, do you guys think it's okay that Hong Kong is like helping China to capture their own fugitives?
I am not super educated on the politics of China or Hong Kong or their relationship with each other. So I can't really, I don't have a major, major thought on this, but I think because the criminals were being like arrested just on charges of, it seems like over here we'd call it like disrupting the peace, and these were like political crimes of them just speaking out badly about their government. I mean, I wouldn't support any government handing over criminals of that nature for to be punished for that kind of thing.
Yeah, no,
Quig said.
Yeah, it's definitely a topic that, I mean, it's hard to kind of evaluate because we are from such a different world and we have different government, we have different history. It's really a lot of things that go into it. Their whole perspective on this is completely different, being from more of a communist party style government rather than our form of democracy that we have in America. So I mean, it's definitely interesting to look at, and I think just with all the controversy around the Hong Kong conflict, it's just gonna it's kind of picking up steam and creating some questions as to whether or not China and Hong Kong are doing the right things and whether they should still be the same nation or separate states.
So yeah, well, definitely. I'm glad we touched on the international topics. It's like good to really get a sense since, like I said, there's so much going on in the US that we kind of forget about, like that there is big issues going on in other countries that we do need to think about as well. So yeah, we talked about national and international topics, but we're gonna get local, like really local, as in URI, and it's COVID guidelines and possible curfew that they may be putting in place. Nate, could you tell us a little about that?
Yes. So obviously, they said that every student would have to take a mandatory test In my opinion, I think they are good on doing that. I think that to get an overall number of positivity of the student body is good to know exactly, where we stand compared to other colleges and what we need to do next. For the curfew, though, I kind of find it unnecessary. I don't know really how many people are out after 11 p.m. anyway. Um, if it was really that big of an issue, then maybe they should have like more police out there when it's like getting later on. So I don't know how you guys feel about uh, the curfew in general, or maybe getting tested every week if that's something that they should implement instead.
Mhm.
I'm not on campus right now, so I can't say this would affect me a great deal. But I will say, if if I have the correct information here, that the curfew would be from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I mean, that's like the time that people are seeing each other the least. I feel like most of us are asleep, um, so I can't see like a huge impact coming out of that because I'm not sure how many huge gatherings are happening during those hours.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree, and I think that a curfew would be kind of weird to implement. I think that more testing would be a little bit smarter, making sure that anyone who is coming to campus is being tested on a frequent basis. But with the curfew and everything, that kind of only limits like the type of activities that you would only be doing in a small group or just by yourself or with your roommate. So it's kind of, I don't know how much of an effect it would have if it were to be implemented, but I think it would definitely make people angry.
Mhm. As for this mandatory testing that I think is going to be weekly or bi-weekly for every student, I'm not sure about that. I mean, I personally just got tested. I was one of the first groups to go through the mandatory testing. It was really easy and really simple. I personally think it's good that they're doing that, but I've seen that other colleges have waited till the tuition deadline to then test everyone and then see if everyone should go home, which I'm not sure if it's happening with URI, but I just hear a lot about, colleges just taking the money and then sending people home. So what do you guys think about the mandatory testing?
I think that URI should be doing it now. Um, Seems like this is just going to be a one and done thing, this mandatory testing for every student, and then um, they're gonna go back to, if you want to get a test if you're experiencing symptoms. But I think they should do it every week or bi-weekly. I think they'd get better results from doing that.
Yeah.
I agree. I think there's nothing wrong with the school having mandatory testing, but I wouldn't be surprised to hear about some funky tuition situation going on because I think a lot of schools are pulling that kind of thing right now.
Yeah, like one of our viewers is saying, I think it also should have started way earlier just to like get a hold of it before maybe everyone has it now, like because there could be so many more asymptomatic people that could have been spreading it for the past month or so. I feel like they could have started early and
He was
probably,
very reactionary.
yeah, could have had like a better grasp on it.
And it's not like they didn't think of this. Like I'm
Mhm.
sure it was one of the first things brought up. It's like, oh, should we have mandatory testing? And somebody obviously was like, no, not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know my friend's brother at RPI has been being tested bi-weekly ever since he got there. So
Mhm.
I think it is kind of reactionary. And I mean, RPI it's a private school as opposed to URI being a public school. So they might have more funding to do that. But I think it's definitely, it shouldn't come out of the student's pocket no matter what. I mean, if it's a safety risk for the entire school, then the school should be the one handling it and financing it, I think.
Mhm. And as for Greek life, the self quarantine, one of our viewers is asking, why is it just the Greek life? Because I remember in the email that URI sent out to everyone about the Greek life having to shelter in place, it said that for off campus people, 9% of the positivity rate was Greek life, and not even 1%. I think it was like 0.7% was non Greek life people. So there's a big gap between Greek life positivity rates and just non-Greek life off-campus positivity rates.
That's something where I don't want to happen as someone that's living on campus right now. I don't want to be stuck in a dorm room because that's just gonna, like, what's the point of even being here if you're basically locked in your room? It's basically prison at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean, it does bring into question whether or not, like, I mean, if they could have found a way to implement this on a broad scale, like whether or not this is discriminative towards the Greek life communities. I mean, definitely if a lot of people in one area have it, you should try to control that area. But I mean, it is difficult with the URI housing situation, so much being off campus and so many different areas people living in.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense if you're in Greek life. Traditionally, you're surrounded by a set group of people and you're supposed to all be like this one big family. So it makes sense that, like, say a suite full of people like broke out all in COVID, we'd be like, yeah, it makes sense to quarantine that suite. It just seems like a larger scale of that to me.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And like at first I felt like being off campus, like I wasn't that much affected by whatever like URI was implementing in their guidelines because they didn't really tell us much. But now that it's slowly starting to affect Greek life and then it'll affect like everyone else off campus, is starting to just touch just every, you know, type of person who goes to URI. So it's all just, I mean, and like I remember me and my friends were making bets on like when we'd get sent home and like when classes would go online. Like one friend said, oh, 2 weeks all the kids are going home, and like no, late October, that's when people are going home. So it's just kind of like not waiting for doom, but it's just interesting to see it play out. But I think it's actually going better than I thought it was, which is good. So
The best plan for the worst.
always. So yeah, that's all we have today. I'm glad we touched on a lot of different subjects today, international, national, and extremely local for us URI students. I hope everyone has a great day. That's all from me, Nate and Quigs, and we'll see you next week.